Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with Carlson, Season 1, Episode 5, I think. Dan, what do you think? Ish. We're coming to you today from our newly not redesigned Studio 129 in the heart of downtown Sebring. We're not sure which buttons we're pressing with the sound, but we tried to map them out. Oh, clapping. They're clapping for me. I get it. My special guest today is Mr. David Leidel. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Jeff.
David is downtown business. What? Oh, clapping again? David is with Swain Leidel Wealth Management Services. Wealth Services in downtown Sebring, right over on West Center Avenue, and he's also on the CRA board.
That's right.
You're the chairman right now, too, aren't you?
I am. I've took chair about a year and a half ago, well, almost 2 years ago now. I've been on the board for several years, and it's something that I've really, gotten very involved with and passionate about.
Yeah, great. So today's topic is CRA's Downtown Sebring CRA. It's not just downtown, but the CRA Community Redevelopment District in Sebring. We're going to do some coverage of that, talk about what it is, how it works, what's happened in downtown Sebring, and how it benefits the residents and the business owners and visitors that come to our community. So we're really excited about that. I did have a couple of jokes prepared, but I tested them out on my fiance, Jessica Skitka, and she looked at me, laughed, and said, "Please never, ever tell those jokes ever again." So I won't be telling either of them, and I will hold them for myself, and just know that I'm laughing a little bit in my own head right now because I thought they were hilarious. We're also enjoying our wonderful Strangely Warm coffee, a ministry of the First United Methodist Church of Sebring. Please go online, check them out, and get strangely warmed yourself. All right, David, let's dive right in. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started. Where are you from? What do you do? Where are you going?
You got it. I've been here in Sebring since about 1998. My wife and I, Michelle, we've lived here since then, been involved in the community really since we got here. Originally from Birmingham, Alabama, graduated from Stetson University, served a little bit in the Army, stuff like that before coming here, but basically been a business owner and entrepreneur most of my adult life.
Yeah, I've always been interested in your service because you post a lot. D-Day was a couple days ago. The 73rd? 76th. What division were you in?
I was in the 82nd Airborne Division for about 3 years, was a paratrooper, jumping out of airplanes and as an infantry soldier and doing that kind of thing.
Thank you for your service.
Well, thank you,
I'm honored to know you and the service that you've provided. You know, I had a good friend of mine, Jimmy Priest. He lives up in North Carolina, and his dad was, I think, 101st. Mm-hmm. And when he was 70 years old, I think it might have been the 50th anniversary, they actually flew a group of them over to France to parachute in, and he did it in his 70s. He was really excited about that. So to all of our troops out there and law enforcement, everyone, we're honored for your service, and thank you very much for the things you do for the community. So you came here in 1998. That's when you must have been, what, high school?
Out of high school, out of college, and just getting started. But yeah. My parents had moved here from Tampa back in the mid-'90s, but I was still in college and just, I think, finishing up my tour in the Army by the time that they moved here. So it wasn't until I got done with college I came back here and started my career in Sebring. Yeah,
it's kind of what I did, too. I grew up here, but I left and went to college, got a little bit of work experience out there, and then decided to come back, because what better place to raise our children, right?
Well, that's what drew us to the area was, my wife is from Leesburg, Florida, which was a similar, type town, especially back in the 80s and 90s, is what Sebring, is now today and has been. So that's what drew us to this area. We knew that, once we had a family, we liked the small town atmosphere. We liked being able to know everybody and being able to have a sense of involvement in the community.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's one of the things here. I'm thinking sometimes as you're talking, as my guests are talking, I'm trying to think of the next thing I'm going to say while I'm listening to you. It's the ADD kicking in. So I have a little bit, then I try and figure out where I'm at. Just like the notes we made at breakfast this morning, which are on that phone over there that's videotaping us right now. So we really can't stick to a script either because they're all there. I do want to quickly digress and give a shout out to the producer of this beautiful show, Mr. Daniel Andrews, who's behind the camera right now and working the soundboard and making all this work. And he and I are gonna develop this studio a little bit more, so it's a little more like a studio and not like something that we threw on a table just before we went on the air. Okay, so you moved back to Sebring. You and Michelle, now you have 2 kids?
We do. I've got a daughter and a son, middle school and high school, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, David and I, funny story, we've been friends for a long time, but we were both planning to go on a cruise. This was 10 years ago, at least, maybe 8 years ago. And we had lunch one day, and I said, "Oh, what are you doing for Thanksgiving?" He said, "I'm going on a cruise." I said, "Oh, I'm going on a cruise for Thanksgiving, too." We ended up being on the same ship. So we got to go on vacation together. We had a really good time, all the kids playing together.
Did that a couple times.
Yeah, we did. We ended up doing it again, I think, for spring break or something a few months later. All right, so your involvement in the CRA, when did you first get involved in the CRA?
Oh, I think I've been on the board for about 6 years now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I, like a lot of people around here, probably didn't know too much about the Sebring CRA, what it was or anything else. And our office has been in the downtown area since 2009. So it wasn't until, like I said, 6 years ago probably that, I kind of found out about it and was able to get involved with it. Was made aware of some of the projects they were looking at, and I thought, that's going to impact where my business is. I'd like to be able to participate in that and be able to, give some guidance and things like that I think some of the other business owners would be interested in.
Yeah, so one of the first things on the agenda that we don't have to follow was, what is a CRA, a Community Redevelopment Agency, and what is that? What is our district, and how does it work? So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, first of all, I think when you talk about CRAs, it's Community Redevelopment Agency. So the mission of the redevelopment agency is to look at things like blighted properties, slums, areas that have infrastructure needs, and then the CRA is funded through tax dollars, and they use those for those kind of projects to improve an area or a district, kind of bring it back to life. Back up just a little bit, we're very fortunate right now with our CRA. We have a very, very good executive director, Christy Vasquez.
She's fantastic.
She is very, very good. She's the one who is responsible for our projects, getting them together and everything else. You've got a board that sort of works with that executive director to give guidance, come up with ideas, and work with them. But beyond that, we've got a great mayor. We have a partnership with the city council. We have other local business owners and investors that we work with, and it takes all of that to include county commissioners and the county government to bring these projects to fruition and make them happen. But it does start with taxpayer dollars and reinvesting them into areas to improve them and get rid of that slum and blighted areas and whatnot.
Yeah, and when David says taxpayer dollars, the way a CRA works is the year that you set it up is called the base year. The terminology might not be right, but that's the base year. So if the total taxable value of all the property within the district in that year is, say, $1 million, then you lock that in so that the municipal and county government and school board get the revenue of that at that level. And then, as the theory behind the CRA is that as the CRA invests in the community, those property values go up. So then today that same value might be $1.2 million, and the CRA gets the tax revenue from the city's portion on the $200,000, the differential, right? And that's how it works.
Yeah, and that's an important point to bring up, because it's not taxpayer dollars like it's an additional tax assessed on you, especially, and some people think sometimes, well, if I'm in that district, I pay higher taxes because of it. That's not the case. It's tax dollars that would otherwise have been taxed anyway. There's a portion of that by statute that can go to a CRA district. Those monies are reinvested, and then the goal is, if you have a property that is blighted, slum, vacant, if you can bring a better use to that property, bring that property value up, then everybody benefits. Yeah,
and just as an example, we'll use the building that we're sitting in right now, which is one block off the Circle, my office building, at 129 South Commerce. We're one block off the Circle, and this building had been owned by a bank for 6 or 7 years and completely vacant and in disrepair. And we were able to purchase it from the bank and partner with the CRA in order to bring some life back to this area. And now we've got 7 employees that are working here and having lunch down here, customers that are coming through every day. So it's bringing more people to downtown Sebring that used to visit our office on the highway. So I was ecstatic because I live right outside the CRA district. So this is fantastic for me. And partnerships like that, and we'll talk about some more of those when we get down into some of the projects at the end, but it really makes it possible for someone to not only the landowners, but the businesses to be able to come in, and tenants to be able to come in, and if someone was interested in a building, they could partner with the landowner and what was I was supposed to make a sound, right? Like, bzzz, I don't remember. We were wondering before the show how Dan was going to fit between the table and the wall, but it worked. And we put this picture up here. That painting is actually of one of the Art League buildings down at the waterfront, which is another thing that we'll talk about as we get further down in the show. Okay, so the boundaries of the CRA, let's cover those for a minute. Moving out from the circle, which direction and where do they end?
Okay, so I would say there's a lot of focus on the downtown district being the circle out to the spoke streets, North and South Ridgewood, but the CRA district really does expand farther than that. It goes all the way over to Lake Jackson. It goes up into Washington Heights. It goes south down just past to Jimmy's Restaurant, I think, in the Southgate Shopping Center.
Yeah, a block away from my house.
Right, yeah, just enough to cut you out. And then north up Ridgewood, over there by where the taco restaurant is.
Right.
It used to be the old Blue Crab.
Yep. Yeah. So it's pretty big. Now
It is a big district.
It doesn't. It's not like a big circle though. So
No.
it kind of carves out just off of those streets. So some of those back streets, like back down Park, or around by I'm thinking down by Bowen and Son Roofing in that area.
That's included.
It's still included in the district.
That is, but you're
Great.
exactly right though that it's not a circle. It's not like we drew a diameter around the middle of the circle or something like that. It's broken off into the needs, which areas really need some more focus and attention. But that area where Park Street is and Pine Street up to Ridgewood, North Ridgewood, that's probably one of the most, kind of troubled areas. It's an industrial area. That's the meat and potato of a CRA district, though, is to look at that. And we're in the process right now of updating our master plan, and our master plan is what guides us. So if it's not in our master plan, it's very difficult for us to do something with it. And as we update it, we are paying a close attention to that area to try to come up with, what's the vision going to be? Is it industrial? Is it? Are you going to refurbish that and do something like you see in other towns, like Tampa's or whatever, where they take those urban industrial areas and kind of bring them up and make them kind of like that trendy new hotspot?
So you're going to put an armature works down there on
You never know.
Pine Street?
You never know.
That would be great. We would take that. We've talked back when I was on city council in the late 90s and early 2000s. We always talked about that old power plant down
Yes.
there on Park Street and what could we do with this, and is there some opportunity, and it's got this problem and that problem. We see that all over the place, from Tampa, Tallahassee,
Yeah.
Lakeland. Even Vero Beach has an old power plant that's been converted into a restaurant, which is really, really cool. So there's lots of those places around. So you never know.
Well, you don't know, and that's that building is so unique, and it's like what you said, like you mentioned in other areas. If you could take it and repurpose it into something, a brewery, a restaurant, whatever, that could really be a draw for our downtown. And the benefit to a CRA participating in a project like what you're talking about there. Unfortunately, the city owned that property, not really knowing back when it was in use, the environmental issues that it caused. But if you cause the problem, there's less money and less grants available to somebody to fix it. If the city were to transfer that property to a CRA, then the CRA has the ability to go out and get new
cool.
grants.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and additional money that's not available to the city to address those environmental issues and help get it ready for a private investor to come in and put it back in and repurpose it.
The only thing that us old timers want, and I believe it's still there, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but that fire siren that goes
It's
off
there.
at noon, 1, 5.
there. It's
When
there.
we were kids growing up over on the Indian streets, that was, which your dad lives over near where I grew up. That was like our call to come home at night. It's 7 o'clock. Everybody run home before we get in trouble.
I was actually we've toured that building, and we were up there on the roof right around noon one day, and it went off. And you think it's loud downtown? Try standing next to it.
Yeah. I mean, we could hear it all over town, just about everywhere. Every
in my house.
Well, somebody's got to wake you up by 7 o'clock, Dan. All right, cool. So we talked a little bit about the district and its size and what it does. Let's talk about. I want to talk about projects that the CRA has worked on.
Mm-hmm.
The first section we want to talk about is some of the streetscaping and general beautification stuff. Then let's go into some specific projects, and then let's go into some of the things that you might like to see. The waterfront, this Pine Park Street area. Talk about those. So let's start off with some of the streetscaping projects. I know you've got one going on right now over on West Center Avenue.
We do. That project started over a year ago.
2020?
Yeah. It started about a year and a half ago. We started with the circle, and we went through and we cleaned up the circle, resodded it, did new landscaping,
New benches.
new benches, tables that you can go and have lunch and sit out there.
I've had business meetings up there with some of my clients. And the cool thing about being downtown with a space like that is I have clients around downtown, and they're like, we're going to have a meeting. You want to meet at your office, my office, wherever? And I said, no, let's meet at the new tables on the circle. So we run up there with our laptops and we can sit there and have a meeting.
Now, you can have a meeting. I mean, you can grab lunch and go sit up there and have lunch. I mean, there's a lot of...
Now that it's reopened, it was closed for a little bit due to COVID.
Doing, not my doing. But yeah, you can go up there and you can enjoy it. So it's not only a place with a bench that you could just sit to relax. You can also have lunch. You can have a meeting. You can have a cup of coffee. It's really making the circle a park, which is what we thought it was intended to be. So in addition to that, we've also gotten on the schedule to power wash all the sidewalks and the street curbing and stuff around that area to try to give it that fresh look and keep it looking good. From there,
I think the last time you did that pressure washing, it ended at Wall Street.
Right. Yeah, that's as far as our contract goes right now. Well, and we're in the process.
For those of us that are one building off Wall Street,
which apparently is the crowd I'm in front of this morning. But yeah, we're looking at that to see if we can expand it. What the cost would be. We would like to go up North Ridgewood farther as well. In addition to South Ridgewood there, Dan. But yeah.
The 204 needs some pressure washing out front.
Yeah. So we're looking at all of that. We've also, as you mentioned, we've moved down the West Center corridor. We've replaced the sidewalks in there, replaced the curbing. We've put in brick pavers that used to have the old oak trees in there, but those oak trees, the roots had gotten up underneath the sidewalk and we're pushing it up. Yeah. Also got inside into the piping and the wiring that's running up underneath there, the utilities that are underground. And there's also some drainage issues you may have noticed going on down on that, or especially down there by Lakeview. So this is the first phase, and the purpose is to connect the circle with the waterfront property down there where the library is and the civic center and all that. So this is kind of the first portion of doing that, and ultimately what you'd like to see is a vibrant water park and waterfront area that's connected by a corridor that is pedestrian friendly and inviting, open, and give you make you feel like you want to walk up there. And then you've got on the circle and on the spoke streets and whatnot, shopping, restaurants, entertainment, places to go and to really make the downtown a destination.
When a lot of urban planning is centered around walkable, rideable communities, so that we can walk places or ride our bicycles places, and a lot of people don't know this, but we'll talk about a little bit about vision maybe in this, but not too long ago, the sidewalk that goes around all the way around Lake Jackson ended around Veterans Beach, and also ended over by the Sunset Grill. So you couldn't connect the Harder Hall area, for instance, back to downtown. So a project like that and the Hammock Road Parkway, connecting the ability for people who are only a few miles away, if they chose to, could hop on their bicycle or walk or run or come downtown. We used to roller skate and rollerblade. That you can't do that on the sidewalk today.
Right.
So it's great. And the cool thing about a project like Center Avenue, West Center Avenue that's going on right now, is that when I applied for the CRA grant to assist with the refurbishment of this building, there was another property owner, Daryl and Lynn Jensen. They own a building over there next to your office, and they were looking to remodel that. So, and then I'm partners in a building across the street from your office, and we just applied to get a grant to refurbish that building. So this project's going down the street. You've got your building, which was done 10 years ago. And which is beautiful, and a great remodeling of a building that you gutted.
Yes.
And then the property across the street on Center Avenue that we're currently fixing all the siding and repainting and trying to repurpose that. The building that was vacant that Daryl and Lynn fixed up, and use a new construction next to them too, right? A brand new building. So
the 204.
Lots of cool. We're not down that spoke yet, Dan.
Sorry.
Well, and also the project, the 204 that Dan's mentioning, is Legacy Bicycles, and we had been looking for a permanent home to buy for Legacy Bicycles, and Dan lives on the other side of downtown from me, so we're both very passionate, grew up here, and want to do whatever we can to assist downtown. We bought that building. It was kind of like a thrift store, used furniture type store. Only on a third of it, the rear 2/3 of that building were just vacant and decrepit. So we were able to partner with the CRA to fix that building up. Now 3 businesses are there. So think about that: bringing 3 businesses downtown that didn't exist before, that or didn't exist in the downtown. That's, to me, awesome.
Well, that is awesome, and that's the goal. I mean, it's not only to just take old buildings and make them better and make it nicer from an aesthetic point of view, but it's to make downtown useful. I mean, I'm like you. When my partner Will and I were looking for where are we going to relocate our office, we specifically chose downtown. We didn't choose downtown because we thought it would be cheaper. We didn't choose downtown for any other reason than we felt like the downtown area was better than being on 27. We're a destination business. I mean, you're not going to drive by and say, "Oh, there's a wealth management office. I'm going to swing on in."
Right.
So it's a destination. We
You
like
would welcome that, though, right?
Well, sure, but nobody does that, right? I mean, so we wanted to be here, like I think the rest of the business owners. And so if you can bring a business, bring jobs, those jobs support the other businesses that are around here, and then ultimately it's driving traffic into this area, which there's a lot of things. When you have progress, you have 27. It goes from originally 2 lanes to 6 lanes today. You have a parkway that skirts around the downtown area. These are all things that put pressure on trying to make a downtown survive. And downtowns in general have a hard time surviving as you have urban sprawl, as you have community growth and whatnot. So for us, focusing on trying to drive businesses, incentivize businesses, and also events and getting people to come down here, that's an important part of our mission.
Yeah, it's really cool. We have several hundred tax clients that roll through here during tax season, which this year isn't over until July. But we have a lot of clients, and a lot of them, when I get through meeting with them, the first place they go is to the Habitat store, which is next door, because they want to shop. Or we've even had people that walked in here because they went there. And another building right next door to me on the west side of my building is Happy Owl. They just moved in there and bought that building and fixed it up a little bit. So it's really cool to see more and more stuff happen down here. And I know one of the debates, city council, county, economic development area, what's this, chicken or the egg? We need more restaurants so people want to come downtown, or do we need more people downtown that are going to buy restaurants? I think the only piece that I really see missing is maybe there's not a lot of housing down here. If we had more upscale, not upscale, but any sort of housing down here, we really don't have a lot of apartments and stuff down here where people can live. So things. We do over on Lakeview. There's a few right downtown multifamily units, and there's a few multifamily units down Ridgewood. But one of the things that someday maybe will come as more businesses and more restaurants and things like that appear downtown.
Well, you're right. The chicken or the egg is the conversation we have all the time, and I think that the having housing in the downtown district, on spoke streets, whether it's North Ridgewood or wherever, but right in that heart of the downtown, it makes a big difference. I mean, some of the housing you're referencing is only a couple blocks away. It's not far at all. But the difference between having them live here and feel like they could walk in that pedestrian setting that we've described to a restaurant or to a shop or something like that, there is a big difference. And we do need housing in the downtown area. We've got several buildings that are constantly being looked at by investors. We've got a couple projects hopefully we'll see happen with the Nancessoy and the Santa Rosa. If we can get those turned into housing, then I think that you'll see a difference in the downtown district. But we also are still actively working to try and recruit restaurants in particular, retail shops that are going to have an impact to give people a reason and a purpose for coming to the downtown area.
Yeah, and lots of buildings have been out there. I think we're on about 25 minutes, so we try to keep these to 30 minutes, but it's been a great conversation so far. So we've covered the projects that were out there, the road projects and beautification projects, and those stretch, by the way, from West Commerce all the way to Lemon. That was a big redevelopment project, streetscaping project, all the way to Lemon and up to Highlands Avenue, or Martin Luther King Boulevard. And there's a lot of those projects as we do more and more to try and encourage investment around the community. So let's talk real quick. One of the projects that's been kicking around for a long time, and we'll end with this, is the waterfront project, perhaps down by the Art League, Civic Center, something like that. This is something that might actually happen.
Definitely. I think we are moving actively in that direction. We're in the process of putting out requests for qualifications for an engineering firm to come in and help us with design layout on the waterfront property. We're also, it's in our master plan now. We'd like to tweak some of the verbiage of what that's going to actually look like. Originally, when it was set up, it incorporated boardwalks and things that we just don't have the property
Right.
to do. But some of the basic fundamental portion of what that original concept looked like, we're going to be working on. And it, hopefully it's a positive change, that it takes a piece of property and maximizes the use out of it. I mean, right now it's got use, but not maximum use.
Right.
More friendly beaches, fix some of the drainage issues that are down there. Splash pads, playgrounds, parks, pavilion areas, space that, you could say, not only here as a Highlands County resident, I want to go over to the waterfront there in downtown Sebring and spend the afternoon or the day, enjoying the lake, but maybe also draw people who are on the coast and, want to come someplace and have a nice, day or weekend and
Absolutely.
utilize not only the natural, assets that we have, but visit some of our local business owners.
Also, for events like the Heartland Triathlon, which brings thousands of people to the waterfront in downtown, and the Sebring Soda Fest that brings a lot of people down, the art festival. These events bring people down here. If we have more things for them to do,
Yes.
they might wander around downtown, because we do that a lot when we're traveling. We just wander around and see what the downtown looks like. All right, David, do you have anything else you want to add?
That's it. I appreciate you having me on today, Jeff.
I'm honored that you're here. It was a great conversation. I love redevelopment and thinking about long-term planning and how we take this vision that may have been made 10 or 15 years ago, but we're getting to the point where we
That's
can
right.
make these things work. And it takes a lot of work by a lot of community partners from the county, the city, and the CRA board and everyone else. So I wanted to thank everyone for watching this episode of Coffee with Carlson. We appreciate you sharing your coffee and morning with us. Stay tuned next week. I've got a really, really interesting show. We're going to be talking about vote by mail and mail-in voting, how that system works in Highlands County. And again, we appreciate and are honored that you shared your morning with us. God bless.
Paid by Jeff Carlson,
Disclaimer.
Highlands County Commission, District 3. Paid by Jeff Carlson,